Hi folks, how you doing? Um, you know, a lot of photographers these days shooting interiors or real estate are taking an ambient layer and blending it with the flash layer. And here the flash layer, and you can see the obvious, you know, flash-induced shadows and stuff underneath the curtains and underneath this desk and so forth. And then here's the ambient layer. Well, virtually all the methods I've seen of combining these involve adding a mask and then painting in the ambient to hide the flash induced shadows and to reintroduce the natural shadows within the frame. And that's fine, it works well, but it can be a bit time consuming. So a couple of weeks ago I got a text message from a friend and fellow photographer, Brady Wolf, and he says, do you think there's an easy way to create a luminosity mask of the ambient layer that masks out the extreme highlights? And it got me to thinking about it, and really I thought he was onto something. So I decided to explore it. So, you know, like you see in this image, here's the ambient and here's the flash, and we want to combine, obviously the ambient, the window and the ceiling fan lights are totally blown out. So, we want to retain the detail that's there, but yet have it not look flashy. So my initial impression is to create a luminosity mask, which is actually a selection that you turn into a mask, is to go into the channels, click on each of the three separate color channels, the red, green, and blue, and to pick the channel that has the most contrast. And you can see for this image that happens to be the blue channel. I thought this is what you would want all the time. So to create a selection of a channel based on this is based on the luminance of this channel, you just simply hold down the control or command key and click on that channel's thumbnail, and you can see the marching ants popped up. That's roughly showing you the selection. Now, one of the advantages to using a luminosity selection is that it is a gradual, seamless transition between the brights and the darks within this channel. So now let's go back, let's turn on all of the RGB channels. Let's go back to the layers panel, and on our ambient, let's add a mask. So come down here to add a layer mask and hold down your Alt or Option key to create that mask. And there it blended the two together. You can see we got the detail back from the flash and the lights that we didn't have in the ambient. And if I Alt or Option click on the mask, obviously what's white is being revealed and what's black is being hidden. So you can see that the window is virtually all black. Same way with the ceiling fan lights. And everything that's gray is being partially revealed. So this is not perfect yet, because you can still see a bit of the harsh flash shadow underneath the curtains in here. So just like any other mask, you can modify it. And you can either use the brush tool and paint with black or white if you want to, or something else to refine the mask that I've found that works fairly well is hold down Control Command and the letter M, and that brings up a curves dialog. So, and if you can't remember the keyboard shortcut, you can go to Image, Adjustments. I'll close this out so you can see Image, Adjustment, Curves, and it brings you to the same place. So with the mask selected, if you want more of the flash and less of the ambient, just click on the center point and drag down. Or if you want more of the ambient, because I myself personally want more of the ambient shadows down here and so forth, you just click on the center point and you raise up. And if you notice, adjusting the mask like this has virtually no effect on the window or the ceiling fan lights. I'll turn the preview on and off, and you can see that there's virtually no difference in the brightest areas of the frame. So just hit OK, and this photo right now is almost done. I mean, there's a couple of more things that I would do to this before I deliver it. One thing, probably all I need to do on this particular photo is create a new curves adjustment layer, which is different than going up here to image adjustments curves, in that using an adjustment layer over here creates a separate layer that comes with the mask. And the only thing I want to do here is go up here to the preset box, and I'm just going to add linear contrast, and that just adds just a bit of contrast to the image. And if it's too much, you can always lower the opacity of that layer. The other thing I normally do is I do a bit of sharpening in Photoshop. So I use a high pass filter. So I'm going to flatten this to a new layer using Shift, Control, Alt, and the letter E, which creates a new layer of the layers below it. And I'm going to go to Filter, Other, High Pass. And I usually leave it right at 4 pixels. In fact, I have an action that actually runs this for me. But anyway, and you can see this looks like crap right now. So for that layer, after running the high pass filter, you simply change the layer's blend mode from overlay, or from normal to overlay. And there you have it. And of course, if it sharpens too much, you can lower the opacity to taste. But as far as I'm concerned, this is pretty much deliverable now, and it didn't involve using the brush tool at all. In which, for simple rooms like this, I find that using this technique, I very seldom have to use a brush and adjust or paint on the layer mask. So I did this with a few images, and I thought, wow, this is working out pretty good. Let's see what happens if it makes a difference what channel we use, especially when you got like this room where you got a red wall. Would it be better to use the red channel, or what channel would be best? So you can see the 4 groups I've got, and they're all identical. The only thing different is that the selection was made using the different channels within the RGB. So here you see the results, and this is unmodified. I didn't make any adjustments to the selection or to the mask at all, and because I was mainly concerned about the color and stuff. So that's what the blue channel came back with, and obviously we can modify the mask using the curves or by painting to get rid of these shadows. So then I tried it with the green channel. It's a subtle change. It would still need some adjusting. So then I tried the red channel. And the red channel did a better job up in here and stuff, but it's such a subtle change that I don't know as if it's worth it, but that's up to you. You know, you be your own judge. And so I made a selection using the RGB channel, and again, it's just a subtle difference, not much difference in which channel we used. So knowing that a lot of people, you know, are concerned about the views out the window, and I myself and probably all of us are concerned about blown out lights and stuff. So I decided I'm going to see what effect, you know, the different channels have on a shot where I intentionally did a window pull. You can see here that I'll turn that layer off in that. Here's my base flash exposure. Next up is I did a separate exposure specifically for the windows, and I changed the blend mode for this and painted in using darken blend mode like you've seen in other tutorials. So then I used the blue channel to create this selection and add a luminosity mask, and that doesn't look bad. In this image, just like the last one, I did not make any modifications to the mask at all. I just wanted to compare the differences of which channel you choose and see if there is a difference. So let's check the green channel, and yeah, it made a little bit of difference outside, but you know, it actually helped the outside a bit on this image. So then I tried the red channel. Once again, very minor changes. And the other thing to notice is that it doesn't matter which channel you use in a room that with neutral colors like this. It doesn't alter the interior at all. So then for this one I tried the RGB channel. And what I'm finding, which was a surprise to me, is that if you got a view that you're concerned about or anything, just control clicking on the RGB channel and creating a luminosity mask from that does the best job of retaining the view out the window, and also retaining details. And if this, you know, can light was on and it was blown out. And the other thing it brought back, I noticed more natural shadows here on this couch, which was nice. It just did a better job overall. So after seeing this and the result I got using the RGB with, you know, using a separate, you know, flash layer, blended it in darken blend mode to get the window pull, I decided, well, let's see if we even need to do a separate flash exposure to bring in a window. So I stopped by this spec house, I think it was last Friday, just to see how far I could push this. And here's the ambient frame that I decided to use, which, you can see how blown out this is. Same way with the windows over here in the can light. So I thought, well, how far am I going to be able to push this? So here's my flash frame, in which between these two exposures there's 4 stops of difference. So here you can see we got, as far as I'm concerned, a decent window pull, and actually this is too dark for my taste, especially, this is a spec house and a new development, so this isn't really worth showing, but I just wanted to see how far I could push it. And you can see the harsh, or the shadows, flash shadows underneath the lampshades and stuff. So anyway, I'm going to go to the channels. I'm going to Control or Command click on the RGB channel, go back to layers, Alt or Option click, add a layer mask, and that did a pretty good job right out of the box. It definitely retained the detail in the windows, and look at the difference in that can light up in the ceiling. So I was pretty happy with this, and so I went ahead and hit Control or Command M to bring up the curves dialog. I want to see if I can get rid of more of this shadow underneath these lampshades. So I pushed it up a bit, to taste, whatever, and that did pretty good. But even still, I'm gonna paint out the rest of the shadow and also bring back some of the glow from the lights. And that's it. I think that's about all I'm going to do. Other than with this one, I would do a few more things. I'm going to add a hue saturation adjustment layer. I'm going to click on this hand here. I'm going to go up here because I know this is white, and I'm going to click and drag to the left to pull out the tungsten some from the walls, the ceiling, and such. I'm going to go back to the layer mask, and this time I'm going to paint with black because I want to bring in a little bit of that tungsten back around the lamps. Obviously we affected the pillows here as well, so I want to bring the color back in them. And then over here underneath that lamp. And of course the other adjustment I would do would be the curves, changing the default to linear contrast, stamp all to a new layer, use the high pass filter, and change the blend mode to overlay. And that's it. I'd be willing to deliver that. I would probably modify, now that I look again, I'm going to get rid of the hue saturation out here. So anyway, that's about all I would do with that one. So I also thought, there's other scenarios, different issues that we run into, and I tried to think as many as I could. And so I thought, what about flash reflections on wood? I mean, we all have run into this issue when we use flash and we got a wall of wood like this one here. And here's my flash exposure, which you can see the flash reflection over here on the shelves and above the mantle and stuff. So I was curious to see how making a selection based on the luminosity would affect the flash reflections in the wood. So again, control click on the RGB channel, go back to layers, hold down Alt Option, add layer mask, and that did a pretty good job of getting rid of it by itself. And I think the only other thing I would do to this initially is just go ahead and paint the rest of that reflection out. And that's about all I would do to this as far as with the mask, with the luminosity mask and stuff. Sure, there's other things I would do. I would select this and put a black to white gradient across it and so forth. But that was just so quick and so simple. It saves so much time. In the past, I would take a flash shot from this corner, then I'd move my flash over here and take a second flash shot just to move the reflection to a different area, blend the two, and now I'm finding I no longer have to do that. A well exposed ambient and using a luminosity mask, and you're pretty much set. So then it got me thinking about something else too. I know most of you use small, hot shoe flashes off camera to light your interiors, and for larger rooms, larger spaces, you find that you just don't have enough flash power. So I decided to try it and see what would happen if I used a direct flash into the scene, just so I could get this room completely lit up with all of its inherent problems with the obvious sharp flash induced shadows and stuff, and see if we could somehow use a luminosity mask to blend them. So turn our ambient back on and select it, go to the channels panel, control command click on the RGB channel, go back to layers, Alt Option click, add layer mask, and that didn't do too bad. We still got some painting to do, and I'm going to modify it with Control M with the curves just to minimize and bring back more of the ambient. And now I can paint out the rest of the harsh shadows and bring back more of the ambient. Some over here. Now for this up over here, I'm going to go to the quick selection tool. I'm just going to make a quick rough selection. Hopefully. Okay, that's good enough for this. Go back to the brush, and I'm going to get rid of that. Oops. Forgot to inverse the selection. Okay, now I can paint out that shadow without affecting the window. And one more area I'm going to take care of. It's right down here under this table. And I'm going to make one more quick selection of this lampshade. I'm going to get rid of that flash reflection. Okay, this is looking pretty good. But one thing I'm sure you've already noticed, see how muddy this went? And this was another benefit that I found with using a luminosity selection, is if I show you the mask, it's hiding most of this glare down here on the floor, and we all fight with the glare on hardwoods. There's the ambient. You can see what I'm talking about there and over here. Well, using the making your selection with the luminosity really helps with the glare. So in this case, I'm going to paint out, I'm going to hide the ambient to reveal the flash layer, and same way over here, just to reduce the glare that's on hardwood. So there you go. Yeah, there is some, on some photos there are some brushing that's involved, but I'm finding for smaller rooms, simple shots with just one flash and one ambient, I'm not even having to get a brush, use a brush tool at all. So anyway, this is just another method for blending your flash with ambient that I'm finding so far that it's really speeding up my workflow, and I think it could for you as well. So I hope you enjoyed watching this, and if you got any questions or comments, please leave them below, and I will do my best to respond to you. Thanks again.